All right, so some of the things to look for. Soil mapping. I'm a soil scientist, so I'm a little bit one-sided, and I kind of have a policy. It's like, look, you've got a ditch, and it's in a hydric soil map unit. Chances are it is wetland, or it has been wetland jurisdiction. Now, there's exceptions to that, sure, but that's repeatable, it's understandable, and it's justifiable. Look at landscape position. Are you delineating this ditch? Is it at the bottom of these two big hills, or is it on top? Think about where that is. Proximity and connecting this to other wetlands, historical areas. We are lucky in the state of Minnesota that we have free access to a plethora of photos. You look at Google Earth, and they go all the way back to '91. The, not Borlaug, the Wilson Map Library, okay? They have all their historics online. So you can zoom in and find your project area, and there's a table of contents on the left-hand side, and it'll go from 1940 all the way up to, I think, 2000 or something. So we're pretty lucky to have that resource, so use it. And then maybe look at construction plans. Maybe some of you can tell that area's been excavated, or give you some clue. Okay, so questions there?
You want to split apart though what would be wetland incidental versus what would not be.
Yeah.
I mean, you do your delineation and then you split it apart and then you identify it separately so that when it comes to the road program, you can figure out what replacement ratio to use for which kind of wetland.
Yep, someone's going to need to make a determination here on is this incidental. So when I said that the numbers probably aren't going to match because sometimes we regulate things, sometimes the Corps regulates them. So we'll have to take all that into consideration when you count up your numbers. That's why it's important. Just get the aquatic resource on the map. Now we can shake things out.
And then when the TEP is signing off on these things, it'd be nice if they also indicated what they were signing off on, because it's hard to tell.
Oh, so yes, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
We're going to get to. Don't let me forget that one. That's a good point. Sorry. Okay. All right. So the application process. First thing, delineation. Okay. Now, whether you get this approved at this stage or another stage is irrelevant, but that's the first process. Pre-application meetings. Who, on a consistent basis, is having pre-application meetings for these projects? Number one thing to save everybody time and money. If you are doing a road project and you are not having a pre-application meeting, you're not doing anybody a favor. I get to my office on Monday morning and I look at my mailbox and here's a road project, out of the blue. Now I have to read every single page in that application to make sure I'm not missing anything. But if I had a pre-application meeting, I know what's going on. We've talked to these issues, and chances are, how many times have you sent an application in and it's approved the first time? Raise your hand if it's ever happened to you. Really? Jeff, you're done. Rare. Very, very rare. Because we just think differently. There's things that we look at and things that maybe you've already processed and made a decision on, but we haven't had a chance to look at it and say, what about item A? Oh, well, we took care of that back at this stage. Oh, okay, that's nice to know. But now we just wasted time going back and forth saying, you're incomplete, here's my list of things you got to do. So if you're not having a pre-application meeting, start having them. And that's in general, for whether you're doing it for housing development or whatever. It's going to make the process much smoother. All right, so you submit the application to the TEP or the Corps. Okay, and this is where you get a lot of the back and forth. Okay, this is where you're resubmitting this and addendum A and appendix B and all that stuff. So we're spending some time here. But hopefully if you had a pre-application meeting, it's less. All right, so let's say you're approved. You're good to go. All right. You need something from the TEP, you need the TEP sign-off form, and then you need something from the Corps, okay? Natasha, what exactly is in that requirement letter? Can you? Oh, Sarma, what is exactly in that requirement letter that comes from the Corps that gets sent to the applicant?
I need 3 things to process. I need the application, the TEP sign-off, and then we need, Natasha and I need the Corps letter, but it has the conditions for what needs to be replaced.
Okay, so your Corps mitigation requirement letter, okay? So these are things that you will receive that you need to send to, well, we put it in there, the bank administrator, which is gonna be Sarma for the,
So-
she's your contact.
So 3 things you need to send out.
So you send the approved application and the Corps requirement letter to Bowser. Okay, so there's your 3 things. In that application, you have the TEP sign-out form, you have the Corps requirement letter. And what was that 3rd thing?
Yeah, those are the 3.
Yeah, those are the things.
The
Okay.
application and the 2.
And Sarma's point earlier, sometimes she just gets this TEP sign-out form. She doesn't know where this goes. That's why she needs the application. The application in parts 1 through 5 are gonna give her all the details she needs. Where is this? Who is this? All that stuff. Okay.
And also to split apart there's a different replacement ratio for WACA only versus Core. And if you're not split apart, Natasha and I don't know how many credits to take out, so.
Okay, so that's a lot of some behind-the-scenes stuff that we'll take care of, okay? That's on us.
I mean, but you need to say, we have 2 acres of wetlands and 1 acre of wet ditch. Because the wet ditch takes a different path than the wetlands.
Yep.
So just separate the incidental versus the not the regular.
You know, and you're gonna get through that in this period, this up here, okay? Because you're gonna have back and forth with the WACA wetland specialist and back and forth with your Corps PM. That's what that's all gonna be ironed out, okay? So, now you've got your approved application, you got your letter, okay, so now you get to take action. You send it to us, okay? Now you sit there, because now everything is kind of behind the lines. We're gonna be calling each other, hey, you know, I'm gonna do this, what bank we're gonna use, blah, blah, blah. Program debits credits, okay? Course is great, and then they send you your letter. Okay? So, any questions on this process? Rob?
What do you mean by a core requirement letter?
When you send the application and it's reviewed by the Corps PM, okay, their deliverable back to you will be some type of letter that says you're authorized for discharge, or not authorized for discharge, is for this project, you're required for this type of mitigation and this amount of mitigation. Okay, so they're outlining your mitigation requirements, okay? Which, it's a local road authority. They don't need a replacement plan. We are the replacement plan. That's why you send it to us. That is the service that we are providing the local road authority. You give us what the Corps wants from you, we'll take care of it. Okay?
So the state process will meet the federal requirements for replacement too?
Yep, that's our agreement.
Okay.
And there's situations where maybe the Corps requirement is 4 acres of replacement, and ours is 3.5. We're gonna replace that 4 acres. Because that's our policy, our level of service that we're trying to provide the local road authority, and we have an MOU with the Corps of Mitigation. So we're gonna take care of that higher number. All right? Now you do your project. You're good. Okay? So this is where your time in this area here, there's a lot of time spent there. Okay? So whatever you can do to make that go faster, pre-application meeting, maybe at an annual meeting, or you identify these corridors and you get them delineated. You get that out of the way. Anything that will help.
Can I make one comment, Dennis? Those core letters have a date on them, and then they say within 30 days, we want you to get back to us. So don't sit on the letter and put it in the file. get it to us as soon as possible. The Corps has not been enforcing those dates, but still would be nice to comply with what's in there. So make sure you notice the date and then don't sit on it too long.
If you put it in the file, then you're not sending it to us. So, we need that. It's a deliverable on your responsibility. Okay, so the forms, use a standard form, okay? Parts 1 and 5, that's the basic information, who, the what's, and the where's. Attachment A for delineation concurrence, if you're submitting the delineation with the application. Attachment E is for the local road program, and that also includes a temp sign-on form, okay? You may need attachment D if there's trail projects or something that's not eligible. And if that's the case, you also need a LGU just notice of decision. Okay. On the standard form, it says send everything here. Okay. Sarma is your contact. Okay. That's still the same number?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got questions, Sarma is your contact there. Got it? Okay, so, questions?
Natasha, do you want to tell people what?
I think she left.
Oh, she left.
Yeah.
She was here. She was just here.
Yeah.
Okay, when I get the three things, the application, the court letter, and the temp sign off, I send a letter to the applicant and the Corps, and sometimes I forget to send it to the consultant because there's several people on anyway, so I send it and I say, this is part 1, it's in the system, Natasha will do step 2. And then depending on how her negotiations go or time goes, then she'll send a second letter. And then there may be days between the two, or there may be weeks sometimes. But you should get 2 pieces of information to have a complete file for that.
When in doubt, call. Okay. Don't be afraid to call your wetland specialist or your Corps PM. I know that I try very hard, and I know Ben does as well, is to coordinate with our Corps PMs on everything. Before something we get back to you guys, my goal is to make sure I have a conversation with my Corps PM so that we're at least know what each other are thinking and how our programs are going to react. So when you get an answer, you get one answer. Okay, so I've got some examples that I want you to think about and give me some information you may think is useful. Okay. Ben, do you want to describe this one? Because this is your project.
It's not my project.
Well, you're the, okay.
If you want me to.
Yeah. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is, once you just give them a description, I want you guys to think about what type of information would I include in my application, okay, to justify it? And is it reasonable for Bowser to replace for it?
So this is my understanding of the project as the consultant supplied it to us, is that they're reconstructing Highway 101, and you can see they're reconfiguring an intersection and some widening and turn lanes and things. As part of that, they're getting rid of this existing right-in, right-out turn lane here for the existing bus access. And they're doing some reconfiguration to bring parent traffic in better, safely, so they don't pile up in this turn lane right here. So then over here, what you see is this is closed off now, and the parents have to go all the way up and around, and then they come through this loop here and all the way back. So they have stacking now inside the parking lot to go in and out. And then the other thing that they did is they totally eliminated that bus entrance off of the highway, and they're bringing it down on this, oh, it's way down here, on this existing road. And they're making a new entrance off this side road where they're gonna have an intersection here. And so the buses can come in and park and then drive around and come back out. So what we determined.
Well, don't tell me.
Oh, okay, I won't say that.
All right, so what type of information do you think you should include in your application to justify use of the program?
It's a school.
It's a school. Yeah, okay. That gets you halfway there, Dustin. What else you got?
That impact's been minimized.
Yep, we'll look at that. Rob?
The relationship between traffic flow, congestion, and public safety.
You bet. Bing, bing. Is there a history of accidents there? No? But now, what type, of the 4 R's, what does this fall under?
Inspection.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I was thinking replacement because you're replacing the access. Okay? Allison, this is very similar to your St. Francis project. Okay? So, WSB has this project coming in St. Francis where they're going to do basically the same thing, and I'm going to ask her the same question. You know? So reasonable for us for the program to replace for that? Provided there's adequate justification? Bet.
Yeah, so here's, I forgot to mention, here's the wetland impact. And so even though, if this was a standalone, this looks like a new road, the point is that it's replacing this existing access for safety. And so even though that's a new segment, that's why we covered that impact there.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Joe, I'm with the city of Minnetonka.
Oh,
So
you know this project?
This is in our city. And so my additional comment is, even though the Bowser Road Bank will replace for that, under the city's ordinance, we don't allow it. So along County Road 101, there's, Allison, 6 wetlands or so that are being filled. And our ordinance allows that because it's in conjunction with rehabilitation
Mm-hmm.
of an existing road.
Okay.
This is a new road,
Mm-hmm.
so the county has to go through rezoning and
Okay.
wetland fill and all that.
But that's a local issue.
It is a local issue, and the only reason I bring it up is a reminder to
Mhm.
many of the consultants sitting in this room that you've many times had 3, 4 players
Mhm.
involved in
All right.
wetland.
And you sit on the TEP, right?
Yes,
Okay. Well, then that would be hashed out there.
yep.
So you would not sign off? Or sign off on a portion of it?
I sign off on the Bowser portion, but
Okay.
then it's like, now you have to meet city ordinance.
Okay.
That's a different process.
Did you have watershed issues that, did they have another replacement requirement above?
They didn't, because this is in Riley Perkins corrections. But yes, there are multiple agencies are involved in wetland protection.
Yeah. Okay, here's one. All right. So we got a road that comes in here, terminates right there, the blue line, okay? Now we have an existing Iowa County CASA, okay? And now we got this dirt 2 track that terminates right here. They're gonna come in and they're gonna make a connection between here and here, okay? This is a gravel 2 track, or gravel, it's probably 12 feet wide on top. Steep side slopes, blah, blah, blah. And the reason they want to make this connection is because this route is very circuitous and it's pain in the butt, okay? So they come in, the local road authority says, look, we want you guys to, we don't want you to replace for that because that's a new road. Okay. But we want you to replace for this, for the upgrade of this road. We replace for that?
No,
Why?
it's not a serviceable road.
It is a serviceable road,
It is.
but it is a serviceable road.
What's the justification for
There's
this
houses
action?
along here,
Right.
so it's service.
Oh, okay.
So, what was that,
I said,
Allison?
what's their justification for driving the road straight through rather than the circuitous path? Other than that, it's more convenient.
Well, what you can't see is, you see this up here, housing development? There's like a dozen more of those over here, and there's this big gap in between.
So they're trying to make a straight,
So this
Shot.
thing goes down like this, and it goes way down over here. So if you're coming from the major highway that's over there, and you want to get over here, you have to go to here and then snake through all these neighborhoods and then up here. So they're trying to say that this is a safety upgrade to this gravel road, but I'm thinking it's because they want to get increased.
are you gonna let the cat out of the bag?
Well, somebody already kind of. Increased traffic capacity. Well, that was the question. Why do they want to?
Right, yeah. Why they want
It's
to
to
do
get
it?
from point A to point B, regardless if there's an existing gravel road there. It's a traffic increase.
So, what is one question that you think we would ask them about this green section?
Is the upgrade needed for current,
Yeah.
I'm just talking in terms of everything. You would ask if the upgrade is needed for the current traffic capacity and everything.
Exactly. They are creating a situation by this connection that now says this road doesn't meet standards. Okay? It's just like that developer, he's got to do a turn lane on this road because of his development. Well, you don't need it unless you do this development. You are causing this. Okay? The city is causing this. Hey, I applaud them. This is great planning. Super. Go for it. I'll use the program. The only areas that they may be able to use would be down here if they can demonstrate that that's unsafe. And that's it.
Yeah,
Are we still debating that?
there's a roundabout that's.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where.
Rob.
What if they did, like the left side of the project and built that road connection over the creek? And then 3 years later came back and wanted to widen the eastern side of the project?
So, okay, so you're saying is if they went ahead and made this connection and some time elapsed, and then they came back and said, Dennis, hey, this road's unsafe. No.
I was thinking the opposite of that would have made more sense, but because of their funding and all that, they're doing it all in one shot. But, you know, this dirt road actually comes along here, there's a couple houses, and then it turns here. I think there's one house here, and then it goes out to this road. And so my thought was the opposite of what you were thinking, was what if they came in and paved all this and upgraded it? And then, because we probably would do that, it's a
Might.
gravel road and they're gonna upgrade it, and just to serve these houses. And then they came in 2 or 3 years and then did this, which they would still have to pay for because it's a new road. But that would have, you know what I mean? It kind of, so I think the scenario that you brought up, Rob, I don't think that would.
I don't know, I don't think it really works like that with
Yeah.
local road authorities. I think when they have the money, they're gonna do what they gotta do. You know, and their mitigation requirements aren't that expensive to stop a project.
So unfortunately, yeah, they planned for the all or nothing, and they're just gonna do it all at one time, and our decision was that it's just not eligible for the way that they're kind of piecing that together,
Right.
except for maybe the roundabout.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, and we asked for more information,
Don't we always-
specifically for if they had any crash data on this intersection. And
So
it
they're
just-
gonna help them out.
And it's fairly obvious, you can tell it's a goofy intersection, there's a curve and it comes in, you know, blind curve and stuff, so we might, because they have to chase that all the way down to here, and there's actually an impact to this DNR wetland, which we would replace for if we determine that's eligible, so.
Okay,
Good, I don't know anything.
this is Highway 96, 35W is like right here, okay? And they had to upgrade this Highway 96, and they got federal funding. And they said, Dennis, I need a noise wall, right here. We cover that?
Does the federal funding require a noise wall?
Does.
It does, it requires it?
Yep. So, if I'm thinking, okay, how do I justify a noise wall? What are some stuff that you may think that they would produce? What's something you might want to add in your application?
The noise data that says if it's, I don't remember what the terms are, but cost effective.
So federal highway something noise abatement criteria. Here's the table listed. Dennis, this is our standard. Here's what we measured. Okay. You're in. So they demonstrated a need, justified it, backed it up with data. That's all we're asking.
Can I ask a question? I'm a little confused why they even have to show that, because using your analogy about if they have state or federal funding to build a road with a trail, and they're required to do it, then they're in.
Well,
So
what-
is the same, is it true for a noise wall? They actually have to justify it?
Well, the standard said if you have these noise volumes in this range, which is that table over there, then you need a noise wall.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So I asked them,
I understand.
what's the standard and then what's the information?
Okay.
So they don't necessarily need it. In this case, they do.
They do.
And that's measured current condition and current standards, not some future predicted.
Right,
Noise
yeah.
issue.
They said, here's the existing right now. Okay? If they did nothing, it's gonna increase here, and if they built it here, so they gave me all the scenarios, existing and then forecasted. Okay? That was fine.
Does this meet some kind of safety criterion?
They were using federal funding, and in order for the federal design manual says that if you have noise problems, then you need to do a noise wall. And they did, and this was just how they justified it. How they justified they met the federal standard. I don't know how they measured it. I mean, I'm just gonna trust that they.
So in that project, Dennis, was there any kind of safety issue that kind of necessitated the improvement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that is kind of like the.
It was
basics.
County Highway 10 and 96, right there in Ramsey County, and it was a god-awful intersection. Their crash data was out. It was crazy. Way too many fatalities. So, and we replaced for the whole works. All right, so here's a table I got from an excellent consultant that I know, and never mind this. I'm looking at this. These are the actual data that the intersections are on right now. Okay, so this is existing conditions. Here, these two: crash rate, severity rate. Here's the standard. Which one of these intersections got a replace for? Okay, pretty easy. You look at the numbers, and some are higher than the other. The problem we come into is if I say, look, I'm going to replace for this intersection and this intersection, but in order to do that, now I'm going from 2-lane to 4-lane, so it opens up a whole can of what we replace for. So exactly what we replace for is yet to be determined. We're going to replace for something. The question is how much, and what's the justification of replacing for the whole thing? You know, does one of these trigger eligibility? I think that's all I got. Questions? Jed?
The example you gave,
Which one?
in the beginning,
That's-
new road out in Farmfield.
Oh,
You said you replaced for it.
yeah, go ahead. That one.
So, if I'm gonna sign that sign-off sheet, I'm looking at this, I see a new road put in to handle traffic from developments. Why did it replace for it? why did road replacement this? If it looks like a new road, and you said there was more traffic on that road because of the developments.
This was a very challenging project, okay, and there was a lot of back and forth on this. In the end, the engineer made an excellent argument, okay? So basically what they're doing is they're taking this road and replacing it over here. So that's gonna fall under the replacement category, okay? Because of what's happened over the last 15 years, it was very unsafe. ADTs, crashes, everything you could do, okay? They said, look, we need to maintain this as a rural dirt track road for these farms, okay? So we're gonna replace the function of this road over here. Replacement gets a little bit sticky, okay?
Right, especially when it stays there, the old one.
Right. Yep.
But building the new one minimizes wetland impact more than upgrading the old one.
Yep.
So that's the key.
Yeah, Jason?
What happens when the old one needs to get upgraded 15 years from now? And then it's this minimization argument was, is that factored in to either this?
Because we're looking at, again, it's not a perfect way to look at it. You're looking at existing conditions. You know, it's just like a local road authority said, look, Dennis, I have to look to the future to maintain my roads. I have to stay ahead of them. Like, I understand that. But you know what? That's not what the program is set up for. It's set up to provide a service for existing conditions. Yes?
Yeah, so, okay, this kind of opens a little bit of a can of worms. No, my question's is kind of, so, like, traffic engineering and planning has kind of the tools in the toolbox or what they can do is kind of broadened over the decades and gone beyond just like federal design standards to various variances through context-sensitive design and various behavior modifications like engineers that might be here, well, maybe there should be no policing and then I'll get to the road, but, you know, a number of tools that, do you ever find you're looking at something and thinking maybe construction engineering isn't the only solution that could help minimize or avoid impacts?
You know what? I am not a traffic engineer, and I am not qualified to even to ask that kind of stuff. My job is to make sure that the justification is reasonable and in application. So that question right there, who am I to ask?
Yeah, it's kind of summary, you're gonna have some ideas about how that interface, you know, when that comes up more in a more significant potential impact.
Yeah, I mean,
EIS setting, but.
When you look at your traffic volumes, your ADTs, in some places could handle something more creative and some couldn't, and we don't want to be liable for another accident or another fatality. We want to stay away from that, and that's what the traffic people are doing. So we just want to make sure that they can explain why they've done their job, and that's all.
If the justification comes down to professional judgment of an engineer, who am I to say?
Well, I'm not
that's baloney,
saying that, you know, the agency should be making those determinations, but maybe in the pre-application, have these kinds of things to be considered. And
You bet.
some of it might be that there could be a minimization involved here
Mhm.
by making sure that there's a number of things that have been looked at in the process.
Right, yeah, because how am I supposed to even begin to assess minimization if I don't understand the requirements of
That
the
there are
design?
these other options
Right.
that they have.
The question, minimization, is that something you go through a sequencing application on then?
It's not sequencing in the terms of normal application. We don't look at, you know, how do you do your project and avoid because, okay, it's a road project. But we will look at ways to minimize your project. They have to create a new access road to a Pioneer Park. And the way they have it designed, we're like, hey, can you design this differently, have a lower design speed to minimize wetland impact? Then they have to say, and it's on to them to say, well, no, because of this, whatever, this engineering design standard, or sure, yeah, we could do something, whatever it is, you know, those are the questions we'll have about minimization. I know that your side slopes on the road are an easy way to reduce your impacts, but you know what, here's the thing. These are side slopes into ditch wetlands. We're not gonna fall on our sword on that stuff. They're ditches, who cares? What's more important is the safety of the people, you know, can they recover on that side slope? That's more important than minimization of a ditch wreaking everywhere. You know? So, but we will look at certain aspects of the minimization within our expertise. Rob?
Do you have an idea roughly how many projects go through this process in a year, or new projects come into this process in a year, and about?
You know,
one
we
or more
don't
a year?
track the numbers like that. We track the credits used,
Okay,
and it's highly variable. Well, I think even the information that 190 acres, that's on average per year, that's even outdated. You know, but really, it doesn't matter. My point is it's highly variable. We would have to track it through the database, and you know, what's the point in that? You know, I know that the Corps could answer that question because the Corps has their ORM database, the all, you know, the matrix, and they track each project. We as an agency can't because who implements the wagon? LGU. We don't keep the record. Any further questions? Okay. I hope if you take two things away, it's the justification. What are you basing your justification on? And how can you put that into usable context? Okay? That's it. And if you're writing applications and you have a question, even if I'm not your Bowser rep, call me. That's fine. You know, Ben's going on vacation. He's going to Florida here. You know, call me.
Sometimes regardless.
So,
That's another question. We had
Yeah.
talked at one point about deficits in the state, in the road bank, and
Mhm.
so 190 acres a year, just say that's a number, but has some accuracy. Where is the state pulling those from? Or is the state behind? Is there a deficit
yeah, there is a deficit in the metro.
in the metro?
Because there's state statute that says if you have impacts in the metro, you have to replace one-to-one in the metro. We've got some language in statute to change that. Basically, for quite a few years, our funding has been rather meek, and it isn't until recently we've got some money that we can actually do things with. And we will climb out of that hole. We still owe DOT credits when they helped us start the program. So, but it's through our MOU with the Corps that we can have these, it's almost an accounting sleight of hand way to do it.
So are you suggesting you're going to climb out of the hole by starting to use outstate credits for metro impacts, or?
That's part of the plan, but it's going to be watershed based.
Yeah.
Right. But, you know, here's the thing, in the metro is what's hard is A, land prices, B, restorable sites.
Mhm.
You know, there are opportunities out there, you bet, and we're working on those. But, you know, when the legislature gives us $2 million, I mean, that may seem like a lot of money, but really, at this scale, it's nothing. Can't do anything with it.
So if you keep generating this 200 acre a year type need, then are you suggesting that you're going to be needing to develop 200 acres a year statewide?
Well, I mean, we have quite an inventory right now. In certain parts of the states, we have a lot of credits.
I got you.
Right. So it's just in certain parts of the state that we're deficient. But, you know, I mean, the road projects in the metro are, you know, 10 times anywhere else. So of course you're going to have this, and we'll have to just slowly kind of get ourselves out of that.
And what is the new language going to, it's going to make it watershed by watershed? Like,
I'm not exactly sure, Jason. I wasn't part of that. I know I think they're just trying to stricken that from the statute, and the citing is going to be more, you know, BSA watershed approach. So I think what we're trying to do is be aligned more with the Corps. So, well, thanks. I hope something came from it.
still cookies left in the back, and there might be coffee left, if people want to hang out and talk shop.